Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving headfirst into Lesson 4 of our masterclass on 12 absolutely essential vocabulary words that are guaranteed to completely transform how you express your ideas. If you've ever found yourself struggling, just searching for the exact right word to make your point, well, you're in the exact right place. Today, we're going to visually lock these words right into your memory. Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with pegs to hang ideas, move on to our 12 essential words, put a spotlight on the fascinating history of the word villain, see these words in action with a story called A Fan in the Air, and finally, we'll wrap up by actively testing your new vocabulary.
Section 1. Pegs to hang ideas. Why vocabulary matters.
Okay, so before we get into the actual definitions, we need to talk about why we're doing this. It's not just about sounding smart. It's about the fundamental way our brains process information. Henry Ward Beecher actually hit the nail on the head when he said, all words are pegs to hang ideas on. Just think about that for a second. We aren't just memorizing a random list of words here. We're literally building sturdy mental pegs to hold on to our most complex thoughts. If you don't have the right peg, the idea just kind of slips away, right? Today, we're installing 12 heavy-duty pegs right into your mind.
Section 2. The 12 essential words. Grouping for understanding.
Moving right along. Instead of just throwing a boring, monotonous list at you that you'll forget by tomorrow, we're going to group our 12 words into 2 logical categories, so they're way easier for your brain to digest. Group 1 is all about weather and science. We've got vapor, moisture or fog you can see in the air. Dense, meaning closely packed or thick. Humid, which is moist or damp air. Theory, an explanation based on reasoning. Descend, to go down to a lower level. And circulate, meaning to go around. Just by grouping them like this, you can already start to picture a dense, humid vapor descending, can't you?
Now for Group 2, which is packed with highly active words related to actions and people. We have eliminate, meaning to get rid of or remove. Villain, a very wicked person. Utilize, to make use of something. Enormous, for something extremely large. Predict, to tell beforehand. And vanish, meaning to disappear suddenly. These are incredibly powerful action words that are absolutely going to add some serious drama and clarity to your sentences.
Now you might be wondering, why use these specific words instead of ones we already know? Well, take a look at this comparison. A word like dense perfectly mirrors the simpler word thick, right? But it gives your sentence a much more precise, almost scientific feel. And eliminate, that's a way stronger, far more professional way to say wipe out or get rid of. By utilizing these specific pegs, you just completely elevate the exactness of your everyday communication.
Section 3. Spotlight on villain. A fascinating history.
Okay, let's give our brains a quick break from straight definitions. I absolutely love diving into word origins because they anchor the meaning to a story. When you hear the word villain, you probably immediately picture some wicked mastermind from a comic book or a movie, right? Well, prepare to be surprised. It actually comes from the Latin word villa, which simply meant a small farm and its buildings. So originally, a villain was literally just a regular person who lived and worked on a humble country farm. So how on earth did a simple farm worker become an evil mastermind? Well, it all came down to social prejudice. Back in the day, city dwellers unfairly looked down on country folks, regarding them as stupid, low-minded, or even evil. And over time, that snobby social attitude literally shifted the entire meaning of the word villain from a hardworking farmer into the wicked enemy we think of today. It really goes to show how society literally shapes our dictionary.
Section 4. Story, a fan in the air. Vocabulary in action.
It's one thing to memorize a definition, but it's a whole other ballgame to actually see it in context. Let's look at a real-world story from Lesson 4 about a scientific experiment at an airport. Right off the bat, we see our new words doing the heavy lifting. Fog consisting of tiny droplets of water vapor is considered the villain of airports, prompting efforts to eliminate it. Notice how the weather, the vapor, literally becomes the villain that the staff must eliminate. It instantly weaves the words together to create a high-stakes problem. Faced with this massive problem, researchers decided to test a new theory. First, they observed the dense, humid blanket of fog. To fight it, they utilized giant fans and nylon strings. But the absolute coolest part? They had helicopters descend right into the fog to circulate the warm, dry air downwards.
And guess what happened? Pushing all that air around opened up an enormous hole in the clouds right above the airport. This experiment was such a massive success that it led weathermen to confidently predict that eventually they could make even the thickest fog completely vanish. See how beautifully those 12 words can tell an entire scientific story?
Section 5. Test your new vocabulary. Active recall. All right, let's put those shiny new mental pegs to work. We've done the definitions, the history, and the story. Now it's time for a quick active recall test. Take a really good look at this illustration. We've got a fortune teller gazing intently into a crystal ball. Ask yourself, which of our 12 words immediately pops into your head here? If you said predict, meaning to tell beforehand, you absolutely nailed it.
Let's try one more, this time a fill-in-the-blank sentence. Listen closely. Sooner or later, the elevator will blank and we'll be able to go up. Think about our list. Vapor, dense, circulate. What does an elevator need to do from a higher floor so you can get on at the bottom? It needs to go down, right? So the word here is descend. Sooner or later, the elevator will descend and we'll be able to go up.
From vapor to vanish, you've now got 12 incredibly powerful new tools securely locked into your vocabulary. So here's my final question for you today. How many of these new pegs will you utilize in your next conversation to make your ideas really stick? Will you eliminate a bad habit, predict a positive outcome, or maybe just point out how dense the fog is outside? Remember, the limits of your vocabulary are the limits of your world. Which invisible idea will you finally give shape to today? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.